Great news, everybody. It is official. We are going to Ravenloft. Thanks to the new book that's been announced coming out in May, we're going to finally have a source book for Ravenloft. And we're going to do a little bit of speculation today, is that we do know for a fact that we are getting 2 new subclasses, and we're kind of assuming that those are going to be the ones that we saw in Unearthed Arcana recently. So today we're going to dive in. We're going to take a look at the Undead Warlock, and we're going to kind of see what it looks like in Unearthed Arcana and kind of make some guesses on some of the changes that we're going to see coming into release. And then I'm going to show you how I would build it today on Rolling with Advantage. Today, as we dive in and take a look at the Undead Warlock, do know that this is playtest material. This is Unearthed Arcana. So I do believe that we're going to see this changed a little bit as we get the release version in Ravenloft. But I do believe that everything, I think the abilities and things are going to stay the same. I think they're just going to scale some of the numbers back a little bit. And I'll kind of talk about that as we go along. So the first thing we want to do is take a look at all of the features and traits we get for being an Undead Warlock. The first thing we get is we're going to take a look at the expanded spell list. No big surprises here. They took a lot of the fun stuff that we see in necromancy spells, but also added some pretty interesting ones. When you become a first level caster, these are these spell levels, not the level that you get them, but as you can cast these spells, you get to add these to your list of available options. So at first level, we get Bane, False Life. Second level, Blindness, Deafness, Phantasmal Force. Third level is the one that is interesting. Speak with Dead is fun, but Phantom Steed, I love the idea of an undead warlock having like a spectral horse. I think I would make it look like almost like a nightmare or something. I think that'd be a lot of fun. And at fourth level, you get Death Ward, but the big one here is you get access to greater invisibility, which for a caster is a huge ability to be able to be completely invisible and sit back and just Eldritch Blast while invisible is very, very good. At fifth level, you get Anti-Life Shell and then Cloud Kill, which there's a pretty funny combo you can do with Cloud Kill with this. All right. So what we're going to do is at first level, we're also going to take a look at the first ability you get. There's really, this is the signature ability of the class, and you get it at first level, which is going to be really good when we start looking at multi-classing and making some cool wombo combo builds. But for the first level, we get Form of Dread. Now what this allows you to do is you manifest an aspect of your patron's dreadful power, and as a bonus action, you transform for 1 minute, and you gain the following abilities. First, you get temporary hit points equal to 1d10 plus your warlock level. And then once during your turns, when you hit a creature with an attack, you can force it to make a wisdom saving throw. And if it fails a saving throw, it is frightened of you until the end of your next turn. Also, it makes you immune to the frightened condition. That is very, very powerful because you guys, I think if you just took a 1 level dip into this, that's a lot to pick up right off the gate with this ability. You can use this ability a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you regain them all when you get a long rest. Now, the thing that is interesting about this is that the frightened condition is very, very good. So let's take a look at the frightened condition. So whenever you you make someone frightened, it has disadvantage on ability checks and attack rolls while the source of its fear is in line of sight. So if you hit somebody, even if they're attacking someone else, and they're now afraid of you, they have disadvantage of attacking your ally. It also can't willingly move closer to you. So if you have a way to hit someone from afar, like Eldritch Blast, and have them be afraid of you, they cannot get closer to you while they are afraid. That is an extremely powerful tool, and the fact that we can do this every single turn is very, very powerful. Now, at 6th level, we pick up Grave Touched. What this allows you to do is you no longer need to eat, drink, or breathe. You know, it's one less thing. And then in addition, when you hit a creature with an attack and roll damage against the creature, you can replace the damage type with necrotic damage. That's pretty interesting that you have the ability to change damage types. Some people may think, well, this is just cool flavor, but sometimes that really matters depending on what you're fighting. Like if you need to hit something and you know that, hey, necrotic damage is a good thing against this particular monster, then you can switch to it. Or the inverse of that, if you know that it's a bad thing, you can choose not to use this ability. So I like the flexibility of this. Now, this is part that I think we're going to see changed whenever we get to release, is this next part. While you are using Form of Dread, you can roll 1 additional damage die when determining the necrotic damage the target takes. So let's say you hit someone with Eldritch Blast, you change it to necrotic damage. Instead of it doing a d10, it now does 2d10. Okay? Well, that's very powerful, but the thing is, there's no limitation. It just says while you're using Form of Dread, you can roll 1 additional damage die. So at 5th level, when you can hit 2 Eldritch Blasts, well, it doubles, and then it doubles again. So what I think we're going to see is, I believe, based on other things that we've seen make it to release, particularly like the Rune Knight's ability to also up its damage, it's a once per turn. So I think this will probably stay pretty close to what we're seeing. I just think they're going to limit that to once per turn, and not every time you roll a damage die, you add an extra one. Like that's very, very good whenever you can hit multiple Eldritch Blast. That's my take on that. Now, when we get to Mortal Husk, this is our ability we get on 10th level. Your connection to undeath and necrotic energy now saturates your body, and you have resistance to necrotic damage. If you are transformed using Form of Dread, you are instead immune to a necrotic damage. That is extremely powerful, because there are things in the game that do a lot of necrotic damage, and you could just walk through it, so it's very, very good. In addition, when you are reduced to 0 hit points, you can cause your body to explode, and each creature within 30 feet of you take necrotic damage equal to 2d10 plus your warlock level, and then you can revive yourself with 1 hit point in your previous space, along with your gear, but you do gain 1 level of exhaustion, and once you use revive in this way, you can't do so again until you finish 1d4 long rest. Now, I believe that this will probably make it into release. I believe they may change the wording on this around a little bit, because there's some wording here that we don't normally see, like the finish 1d4 long rest. I like that. I'm curious to see if that verbiage stays exactly the same. We just don't see that in a lot of other abilities. I do like this because it's limited. You can't go wombo combo with it all the time, because you get the level of exhaustion, and you can only use it once every couple of days. I'm very curious to see what the final version of that is. It is not, when we're talking about a build today, this isn't going to become huge, because this is only, to me, this is an ability that only comes online unless something really goes bad. So I do believe that we'll see this in there, but it's not something that you build around. Now for 14th level, we get Spirit Projection. What this allows us to do is, your body is now simply a vessel for your spirit, and as an action, you can project your spirit from your body. Now, this is pretty interesting, because basically what this is going to allow you to do is, your spirit, you basically go into like ghost form in a way, and your spirit in your body, you gain resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing. You can cast a spell of the conjuration or necromancy spell. It doesn't require verbal, somatic, or material components. You have a flying speed. You can move through objects. And while you're using Form of Dread once during your turns, when you deal necrotic damage to a creature, you regain hit points equal to half the damage dealt. So this is very good, because I like, this is kind of the end cap 14th level-ish ability that we get for being a warlock, and it allows you to kind of take this final form. I like the fact this gives you a healing mechanism, but if you also look on here, it is a once per turn for that, which I think is what we're going to see with the other ability as well. I think we're going to limit that to once per turn. So that is very good, because it allows you to get some type of resistance. You get extremely tanky because you're going to be taking less damage. You're going to be healing off of that as well. So I think that is very, very cool. So I'm excited to see this in play. I think this is going to be interesting. I also think for DMs out there, maybe you could take this and get some inspiration on maybe making villains with this. I think it'd be very interesting. Something kind of fun to kind of throw at your party. So this is very cool. So let's go ahead and do a sample build of the way I would build this straight out of the gate. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at races. Now, we are going to be getting new races, or new lineages, they're calling it, one of which is an undead, a reborn. We're seeing that in Unearthed Arcana now. Now, you could go straight for the whole feel of being undead and being an undead warlock and bringing that in. And I think that'll be fun, and it's something we should definitely play with. But I do want to point out a very interesting combo. So the Leonin race, this was in the Magic the Gathering book, and I know some DMs out there don't allow the magic stuff in the game, but I would argue with the DM, or maybe not argue, I would at least make the point that if you allow Tabaxi, couldn't Leonins just be a different tribe of tabaxi in a way. I mean, we've already got cat people. What's the difference from having a different type of cat person? That's the way I do in my campaign. They're just different types of tabaxi. But what we get down here is called Daunting Roar. This is their big ability. They get dark vision, they get claws, hunter's instincts, it picks up a skill. But the big thing here is Daunting Roar. As a bonus action, you can let loose a menacing roar, and creatures of your choice within 10 feet of you that can hear you must succeed on a wisdom saving throw or become frightened of you until the end of your next turn. So, and you get it back every short or long rest. So the thing that I like about this is we're going to make this Warlock fear-based. We're already knowing that we're going to get the ability, the form of dread that we looked at earlier, to where when we hit people, we're going to make it fear. So I want everything that I do to be terrifying to people around me. So I like the idea of Daunting Roar. Also, for Hunter's Instincts, I'm going to go ahead and pick up Intimidation. Because we're Warlock, we're going to have really good charisma anyway. So I think this isn't a persuasion, deception style. This is an Intimidation Warlock. I think people are going to be terrified of it, and I think you kind of role play the fear aspect, and I think we just roll really hard into Intimidation. Do remember, using Tasha's rule, we can use Origin Manager now to change the stats around, because traditionally a Leonin gets Constitution and Strength score increase. We're going to change that up and have it to be where we get a Constitution for +1 and +2 in Charisma. So that's how I would build this. Now, for the class itself, we're just going to do the first 10 levels, just kind of get an idea of what we're doing. So for proficiencies, I chose Arcana and Investigation. We will have some decent intelligence. For Otherworldly Patron, of course, we're choosing Undead. Also, just do note, when you're building this in D&D Beyond, you want to make sure that you click Playtest Content to make sure that you can bring this in. Also, the optional features here is what unlocks the Tasha stuff, so just be sure you click it like that. Alright, so Form of Dread, we've already talked about that. Now, Invocations, this is where the play style of the character comes in. So at second level, you start getting these invocations. You'll see that I've got 5 of them unlocked because you get more as you level. So the first ones we're going to take are going to be Agonizing Blast. This allows us to add our Charisma modifier to the damage of our Eldritch Blast. And we're also going to take Repelling Blast. That way when we hit someone, we push them away from you. So the combo with this is using the Form of Dread. Whenever we hit someone, they have to roll a save or be afraid of you, and we're pushing them away. Remember, if someone is frightened, they cannot move closer to you willingly. So if I hit them, move them 10 feet away with Eldritch Blast, and then make them afraid of me, they're in a bad place where they can't come close to me. So that's very, very good. You also got to think, you could also create some space with this. You could hit someone, move them 10 feet away, then use your own movement speed to move 30 feet. So now you've got a 40-foot buffer away from this person, and they're afraid of you. And with the range that we get on Eldritch Blast, which is massive, you can basically create a very large, field away from all, hostiles. Very, very cool. At 5th level, the next one that I would take would be Undying Servitude. This gives us 1 use of Animate Dead for free each day. We're playing an Undead Necromancer style Warlock, so why not have Animate Dead? I also like getting Lance of Lethargy eventually. What this allows you to do is when you hit someone with Eldritch Blast, you reduce the creature's speed by 10 feet. This is a flex spot. It depends on what you're running into. I like the idea of pushing things away from me and then making it to where they can't move, and if they can move, then they're slow. This is kind of your backup. This is a flex. I really like Lance of Lethargy, but you may find you don't have a need for it, because it just depends on how well you're hitting your fear. So I would say this is kind of a placeholder for something else, but I do like the idea of this. And finally, at 9th level, we pick up Ascendant Step. This allows you to cast Levitate on yourself at will. Alright, so I just like the idea of this levitating necromancer shooting down, Eldritch Blast, summoning stuff. I think it's a fun, it feels almost like you're playing a villain at this point, but it can be a lot of fun. For Pact Boon, I chose Pact of the Tome. I do like picking up extra cantrips. I picked Guidance because I think it's one of the best spells in the game. Mold Earth because you've got to get easy access to skeletons to raise, right? So why not Mold Earth? I like that. And Message is a great cantrip to have. It's just a good one. So I like the utility of picking up Pact of the Tome. For ability score improvements at level 4 and level 8, we're going to put all of our points into Charisma. And we've already kind of talked about Grave Touch, and we've talked about Mortal Husk. So way this thing plays is, well, before we do that, let's take a look at abilities. We don't need strength, so put that at 8. Dexterity, we do need some because defense for this character is going to be a little tough. So put that at 14. We're going to put 1 point in Constitution for being a Leonin, so make that a 14 as well. 12 Intelligence, 12 Wisdom, and then we're going to start with a 16 Charisma. So that's where we're going to be at level 1. Then we're going to have our ASI, the ability score improvements, at 4 and 8 to go from 2 points here to get it to 18, and then here another 2 points to get it to 20. I want to have as high Charisma as possible because it affects my saves. It also affects how much damage I'm dealing with Eldritch Blast. And then finally, let's take a look at the spells that we like. All right. So for cantrips, we're picking up Friends, Minor Illusion, Eldritch Blast, of course, and Chill Touch. Couple quick notes on this. Chill Touch is kind of a backup. You're going to be Eldritch Blasting like crazy. I like having Chill Touch back there because you never know when you need to stop something from healing. This actually came up in our game recently in our live stream we play on Mondays. My Warlock actually hit somebody that was basically casting heals every turn on himself, while also dealing a ton of damage. So it was very interesting that he basically shut him down by using Chill Touch. And I gotta be honest, as a DM, I forgot he even had this. And then when he hit me with it, I was like, well played, Laszlo. So that's why I like those. Friends is a great cantrip. I think a lot of people sleep on because it gives you advantage on charisma checks. Even though it's Friends, you can use it on Intimidate, which I kind of find funny. Minor Illusion is another great. I feel like if you're going to be playing a Warlock, one way to do it is to get as many cantrips as possible since we're limited on spell slots. So I like having, like I said, with the Pact of the Tome, you're going to have a ton, like 7 cantrips to be able to dance between, which is really good. Now, I have selected spells here that I like for our spell slots. This will be changing based on when you level. Early on, I like Cause, Fear, and Hex. Later on, we're going to pick up Full On Fear. We're going to pick up Phantom Steed because I like it. I think it's a fun thing for movement and getting around. Spirit Shroud, these are the necromancy spells I like. I like Spirit Shroud, Summon Undead, and Vampire Touch. They're all concentration. You see, we have a lot of concentration here. So you're going to kind of pick and choose which one of these you want up. I think having Hex up early is really good, and eventually I think we're going to kind of get out of Hex and go with some of these others. If you look, every one of these things I picked is concentration, okay? The other spells that I like with this, I don't feel that you want to blow all of your spell slots at once. You could keep Hellish Rebuke on. I don't have it on here, but that could be your extra. Like if you got to think in combat, you're going to cast 2 spells, okay? So it's going to be one of these concentration spells, depending on which one you like for the moment, and then an extra slot. Maybe that's there for Hellish Rebuke or something of that nature. You're going to be... Or you could keep one open in case you need to change. Right? I put Fear out, and then another wave of people came out. Well, I need to cast another Fear. So I know this is very concentration heavy. It is purpose because I'm looking at this as a toolkit. You know, which one of these am I going to get going? You may start with Vampiric Touch and say, wow, I need far step up now because I need to be moving around the battlefield a lot more than I am. So these are all just some of the ideas and spells that I like. All right, so for your background, I chose Haunted One. This is a perfect background for an undead type character or undead warlock. You saw something horrible. You know, maybe this whole ties into even how you got this patron to begin with. You're going to pick up Religion, Survival. It also gives you an exotic language. We picked up Infernal, and then also Draconic. So these are all just my ideas of how I would build this out of the gate. For weapons, you're going to have studded leather for armor. And weapons doesn't really matter. You're going to roll in daggers. If you ever get in a situation where you need to use a dagger in combat, you're probably doing something wrong or something terrible has happened to you. So this is what our 10th level Warlock looks like. 14 armor class, I'll admit that's very low. So you may want to, look at picking up Armor of Shadows or something like that with an invocation. But I'm also thinking at this point you've picked up magic items, you've gotten enough money, you can buy something. So look for things to get your armor class up. But do remember, if you are making things afraid of you, if they do manage to attack you, they're attacking with disadvantage. So, that can kind of make up for the fact that you have a lower armor class. So these are the ideas that I have. I like, the spread of skills that we have looks pretty good. I like the flexibility of this class with having so many different cantrips available to it, and I like the overall feel of this character. I'm super excited about bringing this type of character into a game. I'm excited about Ravenloft as a setting, and I would love to hear your feedback. I know some people have been playing Undead Warlocks with the playtest. I want to hear from you, so please join our Discord or leave comments below. Let me know how your play went with this subclass. I'm very, very curious how it seems out of the gate. It's a little powerful compared to other classes. So I think we're going to see it get toned down just a hair, but I'm curious on your feedback. So let me know, is it as powerful as I think it is? Because on paper it looks great. So let me know what you think, and until next time, keep rolling with advantage. Thanks.